In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the process of creating the artwork for a heat press vinyl t-shirt design. I had a friend who wants to create a t-shirt for her grandson, and this is what she wants to use. And so I'm going to go through the process of showing you how to create the artwork, and then once the artwork is created in a separate video, we'll go through the process of reconfiguring the artwork so that we can layer this on a t-shirt and get the result that we want to get. So first things first, we have our source image here, and so we're going to just use Easy Stone Quick to lock our image down, and then from there we're going to go ahead and begin the design process. Now I'm actually going to unlock our image here, and what we could do is say, okay, let's do let's try 80% transparency, and then we'll click on lock image again. And so we can still see the image, but it is a little bit transparent, so it'll be easier to see what we're creating on top of it. Now we do have our custom workspace here in CorelDRAW, which you can download off our website in the freebie section. This is a custom toolbar that we use for all kinds of graphic work, and we'll be using this toolbar as we begin our design process. So let's just go ahead and begin, and the way I'm going to begin is by creating the outline for this white outline that we're going to use as the base of our design. So first things first, we're going to grab our 3-point curve tool. Keep in mind that we're only using this artwork as a guide, so it doesn't have to be absolutely spot on perfect. Now when you're connecting lines, make sure you get that little down arrow so that it's one continuous line. It's not the end of the world if you don't use one continuous line, but as a general rule, that's probably what I would do. Use one continuous line. And again, this is just a guide, so it doesn't have to be necessarily exactly perfect. When you're using these tools, I've used these tools for a long time, so I make it look easy, and it is once you know what you're doing. So if you're starting out and you don't get the exact same results, if it seems more complicated to you, that's just because I have a little bit more experience. So now we have this big curve here. What we could try is we could try to connect, and it does a reasonably good job, but see, this outline isn't perfect, so we'll grab our shape edit tool here and we'll just click on that node and we get these control handles, and then we can just fine-tune that curve. I usually would wait till the end to make all of my edits, but I just wanted to point that out. Okay, and now with this curve still selected, when I go back to my 3-point curve tool, I can reconnect to that end, see that drop down arrow, and continue on creating this path. Okay, and again, see, I'm not going to get it perfect, so that's okay. I'll just come back at the end and I'll edit that. So it just depends on how you want to create it. There's really no right or wrong way of doing this. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Get these little scallops in place here. But this 3-point curve tool in CorelDRAW, I think it was introduced in CorelDRAW X4 or X5, but it's really a nice tool. Very easy for the beginner to use. Okay, so now we have that outline in place, so we do need to go back in and make an edit to this though. So let's grab our shape edit tool. When I'm drawing, I try to use as few nodes as possible. So if we could get this whole shape without creating another node, that would be ideal. But let's just see how it works out. Okay, so we're going to tug and pull and tug and pull, and look at that. Very basic editing there, and we have almost a perfect copy of what we started with without putting a node in between there. So very easy edit there, and we get the outline that we're looking for. So that takes care of that. Alright, so now we have our white background, and probably what I would do for this particular artwork, because it is a bit more complicated, probably what I would do is I would make several layers initially. So now the white is all by itself, and I would probably go ahead and lock this first layer so we can't accidentally add anything to it or take anything away from it. Alright, so now that we have that in place, then we can kind of look at the rest of this. And what I would probably do is just pick a starting point. There isn't really any right or wrong way of going about it. So let's just start with our hand, okay? And so we're going to recreate this hand, and I'm going to focus on creating the hand and just kind of eyeballing what we're doing here. So we're going to just start in the middle here, and you see how I'm kind of going in that center line there. So let's just we're just going to kind of rough things in. And again, I can't stress enough that this is a guide. Okay, so we could sit and spend days trying to duplicate it exactly. But this is really just a guide. So we're just going to come in here. And being able to see this firsthand as it's being created will really give you a good idea of the editing tools involved. Now you can see here, with that 3-point curve tool, we weren't able to get the shape that we were looking for this finger here. So let's go ahead and get that a little bit more shaped the way we want it, which I think that looks pretty good right there. And then here we have an extra node. Let's see if we could just delete it. Sometimes initially we'll add it and you can see that the outline didn't change really at all, and so we'll go ahead and delete that. Same thing down here. Watch this. We have an extra node here, and look at here too. This is another point too to make. These two lines aren't connected, so I didn't watch that very closely when I was creating the artwork, but that's okay. Select those both. Let's go up to the window menu and choose Dockers, and then we'll choose the Join Curve Docker. And here you see there's that Join Curve Docker, and I'll go ahead and move that Join Curve Docker into the rest of my Dockers, so it's all nested as one. So now I'll go ahead and hit Apply, and now this curve, if I change the color of it, see, and it's now blue, it's all one piece. Okay, but let's see if we can get rid of this node here. So let's go to our Shape tool, see if we can delete that node without significantly changing the curve. And you can see we deleted the node, and there was very, very little change to the curve at all, which is good. That's what we were expecting. Okay, and then yeah, so that looks good. All right, so now what we can do is we can go ahead and add in all the detail lines. So what we'll do here is we'll just come in here again with our 3-point curve tool, and we'll just come in here and add all these detail lines. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's add this line first, and then we'll add this line. See how it doesn't line up to the original artwork? That's okay. We're making some creative choices there. We have these Snap to Objects turned on under the View menu, Snap to Objects and Guidelines by default. And you can make as many individual segments as you like. There's no real right or wrong answer here. There we go. Go back to our 3-point curve tool. Alright. So now you have that done. Now if you want to see maybe a little bit better what this is actually going to look like, what we could do is take all of our outlines, let's give them a black, and then let's give them some type of more real thickness. Let's try 1-point thickness. So now you can sit back and look at that and say, yep, does that have the look that the finished look that I want? And I think it does. I think it'll be just fine just like that. Alright, so now let's go ahead and do our next piece, which I'll do the arm. So, and I'm going to come inside the hand here, which you can see that. Come inside the hand, and you might say, well, why is he doing that? Well, we're going to show you that here momentarily. So let's go ahead and get the arm all blocked in. And you can see we're just kind of going in the middle of that outline. And we came past the hand. And we'll just do something like that. Okay, so now we have our arm. Now that's going to be red. It's going to have a black outline. Let's go ahead and give it a 1-point outline just like we did our hand. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take our arm and do Shift, page down in CorelDRAW, and let's give a fill to our hand here so we can see this a little bit better. So now you can see where you don't actually see our arm even though it's extending. Let's go to wireframe mode here. You can see that the arm is extending. So what we're going to do is select our hand, hold the Shift key down, and select our arm. And then here in CorelDRAW we can choose Trim. Now watch what happens with the overlap. Trim. Boom. And it trimmed it back. Now I do want to point something out though. Remember that the arm, if we look in our Object Manager, the arm is below the hand. Okay, and that's why the arm was trimmed and not the hand. So when we're using this trim function in CorelDRAW, keep that in mind. It's the lowermost object that's going to be trimmed. I do want to make a small change to this though. When I look at it, it just looks a little bit strange to me. And in the end, before we make all of our final manipulations, you know, we can come back in and make any of those small little adjustments that we want to make. Alright, so now we have our arm in place. What's the next thing we want to go ahead and do? Well, let's go ahead and just kind of frame in the shape of his hat. So here's what we're going to do there. Kind of like we did before, now that we're starting a new kind of major segment, I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And, you know, this might be good, just good practice, hand and arm. Right? And then this will be his hat. This wouldn't be necessary, but it might just be helpful to us in the future. So we're going to go ahead and block in his hat now. Same type of basic principle. We're going to come way inside the hand here and start with our first line segment. And I can already tell you I want this down a little bit more like so, and I want this more like this. And yeah, we'll go ahead and go with that. And go back to our 3-point curve tool. We'll capture this right here. And switch to our shape edit tool. Okay. And I'm taking my time and doing this step by step so you get a really good understanding of exactly what we're doing here. Now, for this particular example, sometimes when you're designing, you have to kind of look through and look past what you're actually looking at. And so what I'm looking at is this red part of his hat. But we have eyebrows that are sticking over the top. We have this little design in the hat. And so what I'm going to do when I draw this is I'm going to ignore the eyebrows. Okay, we're going to add that design element later. So for now, in other words, we kind of have simplified the design to some degree, right? So again, you can see where the hat is coming way past our hand here. Alright, and that kind of gives us our basic shape of our hat. And then we have this other line here, which is just kind of a different line there as part of the hat as well. Alright, so now let's trim our hat with our hand. So we're going to select both pieces. Now in this case, if we just come in here and use the trim command, notice what happens. The hand is trimmed, right? And the hand is trimmed because our hat is on top. So what we're going to have to do is select our hand, and then we're going to come over to our shaping docker, and we'll choose trim, and we're going to trim our hat. So you can see all that part of the hat has been trimmed back to the same boundary as the hand. Alright, so now we can go ahead and give our hat a black outline, and we can go ahead and give our hat a thickness just like we have with our hand, and you can see how that's going to work. And we'll give our little detail line black, and we'll give it a 1 point as well. So now you can kind of see how this is coming together. So with this, we could fill in our hat with red if we wanted to. I don't want to do that right at the moment because I want to put in the medallion. We have this white medallion with the letter M here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our 3-point curve tool, and we're going to just create our medallion, go to the edge. So now we have our medallion created, and we'll use a tool called our Smart Fill tool to fill in the medallion. And what that actually did was it actually created a new shape for us. So this curve that we created, we're actually going to get rid of because we don't need that. But here's the medallion, and so we're going to go ahead and give it a 1-point outline with our outline tool. And now you can kind of see, then we'll go ahead and give it a fill as well. Now, in this case, I need to see through this medallion. And so what I might do is I might just go ahead and create a new layer. And this will be kind of a temporary layer, if you will. And we'll just turn off the hat layer so I can focus on just the letter M. And so we'll just come in here and we'll just kind of block this out. It's hard to see this, right, because there's not much detail there. So we just kind of have to invent it. And I hope I do a good enough job of inventing it. And I might actually go out and look at a better resource if I don't like the way this ultimately looks. I might go out and scope out another resource for this image because this is not a lot of detail in this one. Alright, now you can see when I created this, I kind of created it a bit haphazardly, and that these pieces are not connected. So we'll connect those, go to the join curves and hit apply, and now it is connected. But this M does not need an outline, so we're going to right click on one of these boxes, and now we have just our M. And I might just go ahead and fine tune it as long as we're here. If I see something I don't like straight away. And that might be okay. You know, like I said, we might have to come back to that and revisit that if I'm not happy with that. So let's turn back on our hat, and now you can see our M is inside the medallion there, like we needed. Okay, so then we could go ahead and take our hat. I tell you what, let's do this. Let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and fill our hat with red. That'll be fine. So now we can kind of see that, how that is. So then the next thing that I think I would probably block in would be the head. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we already have a new layer here. This curve we're going to put on our hat layer. This letter M. And so now we have this new layer here. So we'll call it face. And we'll go ahead and block in our face. And the way we're going to do that is just like we've already been working. We're going to do a lot of overlaps, and so let's just go ahead and start blocking it in. So we'll block this in, start with our outline here. Using things as the existing artwork here. This is a general guide. Now here it gets a little bit tricky because we want And I'm going to come inside my hat. So you can see I came way inside my hat. And then we'll come back down here. Come way inside our arm. And this is going to give us our basic hat shape. So what we're going to do is just draw, just so that's connected. Okay, so now we could give you can see what our face looks like now. Alright, so now we have our basic shape of our face, and we're going to use our hat to trim. So let's go back over to shaping, trim our face, and you can see what that did. It just automatically gave us that shaping that we needed, so that where the two pieces intersect, it's perfect. Then we're going to take our hand and trim our face. You can see that, trimmed it back some. And then we're going to take our arm and trim our face. And that trims it back the rest of the way. But we do have this excess here. And so we do want to go ahead and clean that up. And just using our shape tool here, delete those nodes that we don't need. One by one by one. Just to clean up where those connectors were there. And then sometimes you might have to zoom in. There we go. So now that's all cleaned up, and we have the basic blocking in of the face. So again, I would probably go ahead and give this an outline of black. Go ahead and give it an outline thickness of 1 point. And that is basically how we want it to be. And so then the next thing to do is we have this little piece of hair. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do this. We'll do this. We'll do this. Just like before, come way inside. Make some crazy curves. And make that connection. Then we'll go back into our trimming mode. So go back to your pick tool. We're going to take our hat, trim our hair. That trimmed it back a little bit. Take our hand, trim our hair. That trimmed it a little bit more. And then take our hand and trim our hair. And that trimmed it back a little bit more. And again, we still have this situation here where we have some leftover remnants, just like we did previously. So we'll select all those nodes and hit delete. And now we just have this little piece of our hair. So again, we'll give it a black outline. We'll give it a thickness of 1. And let's go ahead and give it a fill color of brown. Okay. So you can see it's coming together quite nicely. So this will not have a fill. Oh, I have that locked. That's right. So, tell you what, let's go back to our Object Manager and temporarily unlock that, so I can get rid of the outline and give it a fill of white. But now I have another problem, don't I? But you can, it is kind of nice to see it coming together. But I can't do that, so I'm going to undo that because I need to see through that for the rest of my elements, which I kind of forgot about. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish up our face. So what we're going to do here to finish up our face is just continue on with some of the design elements. So we have part of his beard here. So go ahead and get that blocked in. Something like so. I am going to grab my shape tool here because this transition looks a little funny to me. So we'll see if we can't finesse that a little bit. Once we convert this to, we'll just go ahead and fill this example. Oh, I guess we can't because it's not a closed shape. So let's go ahead and make it a closed shape by. Well, let's see here. So now we're going to use a little bit different tool. So now, let's go ahead and no fill. What we need to do is we need to take our face, and then we have our beard. So let's go ahead and go back to our Shaping Doctor and look at some of these other options that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, here's our beard. Let's intersect it with our face. And what that does is, this is the original beard piece, which we no longer need, and then it creates just this intersected piece. And so we're not going to have an outline in this example, but we are going to fill it like so. Okay? And then the next thing we want to do is we'll add this little tail piece here. We'll go ahead and give it a black outline. We'll give it a thickness of 1. And then that kind of finishes that. And what we'll do is we'll step back and take a look at this, and you can see there's parts of this I'm not happy with. So I want to get this nose nice and smoothed out just the way I want it. And it's going to take a little bit of finesse to get it there. But yeah, I think that looks a lot better. All right, so that's good. So now we have our eyes here, and I'm going to just use our 3-point ellipse tool to create our eyes. Pretty nifty little tool there. You can see that there. That takes care of that one. And then we'll create another one inside of that, I think. And let's just go ahead and give both of these I'm just going to kind of hand place. Let's go ahead and give them both an outline of 1 point. And we'll give this black, 1 point. So I think that looks pretty good. And I think what we'll do is we'll fill this one with black. So it's like that. And then I'm just going to add another one on top and fill it with white. So it looks something like this. So it may not be exactly the original artwork, but it'll be close enough. And then let's go ahead and add this other eyeball here. And we'll go ahead and give it a 1-point outline. And then we'll go ahead and do something kind of similar where we're going to draw out a little line. We'll grab our Smart Fill tool to give us that fill that we need. And then, yeah, we'll go ahead and there's one little piece there that we don't need, so let's go ahead and dispose of that. Alright, and then we'll take this little glint, make it a little bit smaller, and there we go. So now you can kind of see how that's going to look. And we can manipulate it a little bit to get the look we want. Whatever you want to do there to get the eyes looking the way you want them. Alright, so that pretty well takes care of that part of it. Let's go ahead and finish the mouth down here. So we'll grab our 3-point curve tool here. And we'll draw this out. Remember, snapping to edge. Okay, that's very important. And we're going to snap from edge to edge again. And then we're going to grab our paint bucket tool and see if we can fill in that and fill that with red. And then this piece, we're going to fill that with white. And so now we have 2 separate pieces there. And then we're going to select both of them, give them both a black outline and a 1-point. So it looks like that. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, if we go back over here to there are a couple of design these 2 curves, these 2 pink ones we don't actually use anymore. So we're going to go ahead and dispose of that one and that one. Okay, and just keep it really nice and clean with all of our extra lines. Now, our hat layer, we need to turn that off because I need to see my eyebrows on my face layer. So we'll go ahead and block those in. Real simple, not doing too much with these. And see, I have an extra node there. That was just to create the artwork. If I delete it, it goes away. And that's basically what I want to do. So we're going to give these no outline, but we do want to give them a fill. So no outline, but a fill. Okay. And then we did have that one detail line that we might as well go ahead and put in on the hat in the original artwork. So we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and give it an outline thickness. This one I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give it a 2-point outline thickness. So we're going to make it a little bit thicker. I'll tell you what, that's a little bit too thick. Let's go 1.5. And then we're going to just modify it a little bit here. We're going to use an option in CorelDRAW under the Arrange menu, Convert Outline to Object. So instead of a single line, now we have a line that has a thickness to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to just make it so that the point, it kind of comes to a point. Okay, so it'll be something similar to this. And that is very, very similar to what the original artwork was as well. If I move this out of place, you can kind of see it's kind of faint there, but it wasn't just one line thickness, I guess is the point I was making there. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to just tilt this just a little bit. Alright, so that's pretty good. And then this we're going to actually put back on our hat layer. And then turn on our hat layer, and now you can kind of see what this is all going to look like. So now our face, this is just, remember, see, that's just one piece of our face there. We're going to go ahead and fill with white. And now you can kind of see what the face is going to look like. I wish, you know, we had an actual beige. Let's see here if we can. Let's just see once here. We'll give it a beigey color for the face so we can see that a little bit better. I don't know that I'm real thrilled about that one, but let's give it, there we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. Okay, so that's the original color of the design. When we actually cut this out of vinyl, it probably won't be like that. And then the medallion is white. Let's go ahead and make our medallion white. Oh, that's I guess I have the M selected. I meant to grab the medallion. There we go. So the medallion's white, the hand is white. So now it's starting to look like something. So now we have just a few more pieces to go. We have the other hand, and of course we have his overalls. So now we'll go ahead and block in the other hand. And again, there's really no right or wrong way to do this. You know, which element to do first. You just pick one and run with it. The important thing is understanding the basic process of what we're doing. The actual order that we do it, it's really not significant. So now we have our basic hand outline, and we'll come back in and add the design elements. I guess what I would call design elements. With all the little details that make it look more like a hand. Every time we're drawing a line, we're snapping, snapping, snapping. So like right here, you can see, you know, it had a little bit of a bump there. But, you know, if you want to fine tune how some of these are connected and so forth. But I think that looks pretty good. I mean, it's pretty basic. So what we'll do is select all of those pieces, go ahead and give them a black outline. Give them the same thickness we gave everything else, which is 1. And then sit back and look at it now and determine, yep, is that what we want, or do we want to make a small change? And I think I'm going to make a small, tiny little change here. I just want this to come out there just a little bit different. And sometimes we make all these changes and you don't see a huge difference, but I'm pretty nitpicky. So there we go. So that looks pretty good. I can live with that. All right. So now we have our hand in place. And now what we need to do is go ahead and add in the overalls. And so for this, what we're going to do is we're going to just start in here with our scallops. Let's get these in place. And then I'm going to come out. Let's see here. What do I want to do here? Maybe I don't want to go that crazy with that. I will come inside our hand. Let's do it that way. And we'll come to this point right here. And then so this extra piece we're going to trim with our hand. Then obviously we're going to do some face trimming. And then we're going to trim with our arm. Keep in mind how I'm kind of doing this deliberately. So I came down with my arm, and then I'm going to come to this point where I'm going to make that connection. Because when I draw this line to this line, I'm going to kind of continue that on down. So let's go ahead and give this a black outline so we can see this. Let's go ahead and give it the same thickness that we've given our other elements. So now we can kind of see how that looks. And then what we're going to do is trim. So we're going to take our arm, come into our shaping docker here, and we are going to trim our overalls, which we just did. See how that follows along with our arm now? And then we're going to take our face and trim our overalls. And now you can see that has been trimmed. And then we're going to take our hand and trim our overalls. And now you can see that looks perfect. So you can see we have a really nice definition there and with that boundary. Then it's just a matter of coming in and adding those design elements to the overalls to make it look like the original design. Always snapping edge to edge, as you can see. And then here we have to kind of finesse this line around, something like so. Make sure that that is a nice configuration. So let's go ahead and make it black. Let's go ahead and give it a thickness of 1 so we can see that. And do the same thing with these. So we'll make it black, give it a thickness of 1. We will make it black and give it a thickness of 1, like so. And now we have this button that we want to make. So let's go ahead and grab our 3-point curve tool here. And you know, here we're going to have to probably make a change. You know, just kind of finesse this around however we think we need to get this button made. Grab that paint bucket tool there, which is our Smart Fill tool, and when we click inside this boundary, that becomes our button. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give it a outline thickness of 1, and then that becomes, oops, that becomes our button for that. Okay, and then how this button connects right here, you can see it just looks a little strange. So maybe we'll make an adjustment there so it doesn't look quite so strange. Just a weird little connection there, but you know, you could sit and overanalyze things probably a little bit too. So whatever, I think that'll be fine. All right. And then we have this button too that we have to make. So let's go ahead and make it. Using that 3-point ellipse tool is probably just as good as anything. And we'll give it an outline thickness of 1, color of black. Takes care of that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and draw in. The original design had a little button detail, no outline, little black button detail, something along the lines of that. So we can go ahead and do that. Go ahead and make this one a little bit smaller. If we want to do something like that, we can do that. And then we'll make this little piece using our Smart Fill tool. That's going to become red. Black outline with a thickness of 1. Okay, and then we can go ahead and fill our overalls here. Give our hand a white fill. And now you can see that we basically have our completed artwork. Let's go back over here to the Object Manager. We have a couple of pink pieces that we can go ahead and dispose of. Those were just used to create little artwork creation pieces. But now, if we unlock our original design there, and this curve, we go ahead and give it a white fill. Go ahead and make a copy of it here. This now becomes our artwork, and it doesn't look like much right now, but if we come in here, let's go ahead and throw in a weed box. That will look a little bit better. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller here, and let's just give it a different color. Let's say we're going to put it on a Let's just say we're going to put on a dark green shirt or something. So that gives us our finished artwork. Now, we have our finished artwork, which is great, but now we have to take that finished artwork and we have to figure out how we're actually going to construct our t-shirt from this artwork, and that's what we're going to take a look at our next video, how we're actually going to manipulate this artwork a little bit so we can actually get ready to cut this out and get the results that we want for our t-shirt design. Sometimes when you look at a design, you think of, well, you know, there are different ways to improve it, and actually I think there's a change that I want to make. I'm going to make it a duplicate. So once I've finished the artwork, though, I kind of want to I'll leave the original alone, and then if I want to experiment a little bit, then I'll experiment on a copy. And here are some of the things that I want to experiment with. Do you see this area around the hand here? You see how the outline, the white outline, is thicker in different areas and just doesn't seem to follow the contour of the hand very well. And I don't really like the way that looks. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a change. I'm going to take this, bring it to the inside, and then take my hand, just my hand, and use this option, which is our interactive contour tool, and I can click and drag and get an interactive view of how much contour I want. And so I want that much. And I'm just going to right click and break contour group apart, and then I can take that piece that I just contoured and the this white object that I use for my background and just go ahead and weld those two together. Okay, so select this one and just weld those two together, and I just like the way that looks a little bit better, where it's a bit more uniform and it follows the contour of the hand. And likewise up top here, this is not uniform. It's pretty good. You can see it's a little bit thinner here, a little bit thicker here. It's pretty good, but not, you know, totally precise. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you what we're going to do. This is a bit more advanced edit here, and one of the reasons I wanted to show it to you. We're going to go ahead and delete. This is always why you work on a duplicate, not the original, because we're making quite a major change here. So we're going to go ahead and change this to line. And actually this does actually look kind of cool too. When you play with things, sometimes you discover. So you see how we have this. That actually looks cool like that, where the white background is only on part of the design, and not the whole thing. So sometimes you discover things by accident. But I do want to show you what we're getting at here. So we're going to go ahead and add an outline here. But let's select the whole thing and group it together. So now we're going to group it all as one. And then we're going to try the interactive contour tool again. So let's go ahead and grab our interactive contour tool and click and drag. And when we drag to the outside, again, we're going to see exactly how much contour we're getting. And once you're happy with it, then you can let go. Now we can actually change the color of the contour so you get a better view of what it is. We're not going to have an outline thickness to it, but I'm happy with that. So what we're going to do here is let's just go ahead and break contour group apart. Let's make sure it has no outline, and now you can see what that looks like a little bit better. And I do like the uniformity that gives us. Now sometimes with the contour tool you get these weird spikes, so it's easy enough to go in and take care of that with our shape edit tool. Just delete that. Sometimes you do see, like in this case here, you do see we need to maybe delete a couple of more nodes than that. And you can see it actually made a pretty major, what I would consider a major change. So let's add a node. That will kind of lock this position, and then we'll delete the offending nodes here. And yeah, it still made a bit of a small change there, but it's pretty insignificant. And then we have another little spike here that I would deal with. Make just that little bit of change. Otherwise, everything else looks pretty good. So we could take this new contour piece, you can see what it looks like, and the original, and we'll weld the two together. And so we just made just that tiny little bit of change there, and it just cleaned that outline up a little bit. And now you can see we have a great design that we can now fix up a little bit and get ready to put on our t-shirt.